Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Vader. Today is May 9th. It is 6 o'clock. Roll call.
Randy Hall. He's here. Jason Daly.
I have not heard from Jason. Has he called
I
in?
haven't heard anything from him, and he didn't come in and pick up his packet.
Okay. So we need to hold an excuse.
In the form of a motion.
Have a motion. I'll make a motion to say Jason Daly is unexcused absence. Seconded by Mr. Hall. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes. I was hoping if we went slow enough, you would actually show up as we went.
No.
Okay.
All right, continue the roll call.
Joe Scheid.
Here.
Mike Parsons.
Here.
And Leona Sander Hunter. Here. And of course, we have no mayor at this point, so.
So we do have a quorum. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Mayor's report. Update on income survey. So hopefully everyone got mailings. I got multiple mailings. And then the folks were around this weekend and throughout the week going door to door to catch any stragglers that didn't respond over the phone or online. And the last report we heard today was that they did get their 80%. And so they need to, of course, go through all the calculations and everything to see if what we actually qualify for. But we got our numbers, so that's a good start. Tractor tire purchase. So the last meeting we approved up to $3,500 for tires and wheels. We ended up only spending a little over $2,000 of that. They were able to refurbish the wheels, and that business got rave reviews from our city employee. So
That was TNT, right?
TNT.
yeah, so that was good. Saved some money there. Mayor's meeting. I did go to the mayor's meeting up at Lewis County with the commissioners this last Friday. There was a presentation from the folks with the 2020 census. They're going to ask for the cities to help in getting that information out to residents. There's going to be an online option this year for people to fill that out online. Also, there's going to be a lot of temporary jobs available. So if you want a temporary census job, go online and you can help the census out there. Changes to the local 911 call center. There was an article in the paper this week about that. They're considering going from our local 911 call center there at the courthouse to a regional call center with Thurston County. A lot of the cities were interested in pursuing that. I talked to our fire chief here, and he strongly believed that we should pursue that. And so I think that's what the county's going to do. They're going to do a study to see if that would save us any money. What else? Representatives from our congresswoman's office and senators' offices were there, and they had a lot of different grant suggestions for cities. So we're following up on some of those to see if any of them are a fit for Vader. And then, if you remember a couple meetings back, there was a suggestion that possibly the 09 funds could be a source of revenue for a grant for our wastewater treatment facility. And I had a sit-down meeting with Matt Modioshi about that, and he's going to follow up with Kathy Reed to see if maybe there's some way to figure that out for us. So that was what the mayor's meeting was about. The next one is the first Friday in June. It's open to the public if anyone else wants to go. Item number 4, update on senior disabled low-income rates for seniors. So notices went out in the sewer bills. And so people can start calling in to see if they qualify for potential low-income reductions. So, we got any? We don't have our bills.
Got mailed out
we don't have our
today,
bills yet.
So,
okay.
yeah, it hasn't been long enough yet.
Another item. just a reminder that on May 23rd, there's going to be a public hearing at our next council meeting, during the council meeting, on CDBG funding for our wastewater treatment facility. So that's just a reminder that will be happening. And then the last thing, we got a letter from TIB, Transportation Improvement Board. Do we have those letters? So apparently there is some changes. There's a bill that's going to go before the legislature to change the application process for cities to get this TIB funding. If you remember, the TIB funding is the gas tax. The gas tax in the state goes to the TIB, and the TIB decides who gets this money. There's an application process. That's how we got the $600,000 for downtown done, without having to pay any money from the city for that. Anyway, that bill is going to make it harder for small cities to apply. And then Devin Jackson forwarded this to us. Is that correct?
Well, initially we got it from Kelsey
Oh, I see.
at TIB, and then Devin Jackson is forwarded the letter that they're requesting, that he's helping the TIB.
And so, of course, Devin Jackson was our engineer that helped us get the funding through TIB for this downtown project. And they're suggesting that the city sign on to a joint letter with other small cities from around the state to oppose the changes to this funding package. And they would send that to Governor Jay Inslee. And so I guess what we're looking for is an affirmative from the council that we would want to join on with the other cities and that. And I know we just got this letter, and if you want to take a moment to take a look at it. I really, Devin Jackson has really been good to us, and I'd like to go with his recommendation.
Does this have to be decided tonight?
It doesn't need to be a motion because it's not a contract or anything like that. Basically what our mayor pro tem needs to know is if council is in support of the city trying to get TIB's freedom back to make the decisions and help the small cities get their money easier. This bill is just going to make it more difficult and put more hoops that people have to jump through in order to get the tax money that's already collected. And so council doesn't really need to make a motion. And this is just a suggested letter with some suggested verbiage. But they did say that it needs to happen right away. I guess it's going, they didn't give me a date, but they said not to wait, and that they needed something as soon as possible back from the city if we were in support of, encouraging JMG to vote no on that. So basically we just need a consensus that council is in support of this idea, and then between Joe and I, we can work on just send a letter from the city of Vader so we can be on the list of cities saying yes. Don't make it harder for us to get street money.
I agree.
Okay, and that's what we'll do. That was the end of the mayor's report. We did have a comment from the audience already. Did we want to hear that? Yeah? Bob?
Yeah, I'd like to know what the cap is on the sewer rate, the low-income sewer rate. What's the cap is?
It's on the flyer, and there's some up there by the front window that you can get, but it's also coming in your bill. So you'll see on the back, there's a list of how many people in your household and what those amounts are. And if you have any questions,
Has it been adjusted?
No, what we're trying to do with this, council is trying to decide if they want to add disabled, permanently disabled people to the list of available to get a lower rate. And so we're trying to get an idea how many people might be interested in that, so we can see what kind of effect that would have on the income for the sewer. And so we're sending out this request. It's kind of like a survey. And if you think you would qualify and you would want to get this lower rate, please call the city and let us know so we can kind of get a tally of how many people, and then we can report that back to council so they can decide.
Thank you.
All right, council. Sorry.
Regarding the sewer bill, I thought we were gonna drop that you had to be 62 or older and disabled. I thought if you were disabled regardless of your age.
Yeah.
Or, it says or.
Yeah, it should say or. Yeah, must also have a member who is 62 plus years old or is permanently disabled.
It's not.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I didn't know to make mistakes, so.
Yeah, Hallie?
I have a question. Is there any way of doing anything about folks who simply do not pay the sewer bill, which leaves the bigger burden on the rest of us? Because I know this has been discussed before, and I don't know what percentage of people are not paying their sewer bill because you can't turn off the sewer. Is that being dealt with?
That has been talked about before, and you're right. It is usually a city has the ability of turning water off if you don't pay your bill because it's a combined water and sewer bill. Of course, in the city it's separated, and so we can't turn the sewer off. But in the long term, one is to get the water system back, so then the city has control of that. And then in the short term, I believe we put liens on the properties. Is that correct?
There are automatic liens, there's also collections, but that would be a topic that we could add to a council agenda for discussion if council wanted to discuss that.
So,
There are other options that the city can talk
Okay.
about and look at if they
All right.
want to.
one more, Bob.
My question is, it's for two people, it's 16.4. I don't know anybody in town that could even qualify for that. That's two people.
I don't make up those
I know,
numbers.
that's what I'm saying.
That's the HUD
We're
CBG
doing
numbers.
something to get people to call and see by this rate. I don't know if you're going to.
There are people that qualify. There are,
Didn't we pull these numbers from? We pulled these from the federal.
yes, and they're
from
the
HUD
same
database.
ones that the water
And
department
that the county uses, yeah.
Yeah, and they have people as well that do qualify under these numbers, but that's what we're trying to figure out is how many sewer customers would fall under those
A month or
rates.
so ago, Judy kind of gone through and talked to people, and it's an amazing amount of people that are
Very low.
lower.
Well, they're not paying their property taxes or rent or whatever, because I make $2,000 a month and I barely scrape by. And I own my house, and that's what the assessed value now. You guys raise the property with the adding up property percent. It's really hard to make it, and that's only $22,000. This is, $6,000 under that. I think that we need to get that raised up.
Well, we'll see when we start getting responses. We'll find out exactly what we're dealing with.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is council reports. Anyone on the council have any reports? No?
I thought May Day was a huge success. I thought the parade was wonderful. I just thought it went really, really well this year. The weather was fabulous.
Yeah, it was.
And for all of those people who put in the time and the effort and did all the work, thank you very much. It was a wonderful day.
I agree. It was an excellent meeting. All right then, agenda approval. I don't have any other additions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda, city council meeting agenda for April
didn't change the date, sorry.
Mhm.
For
That should say May 9th.
May 9th,
So we do have a change on the agenda.
2019.
Well, we have a motion to approve the agenda as written for May 9th, 2019. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hunter Sander. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes approval. That date is correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the city
Date is
council
not
meeting on
April 25th.
I didn't change that one.
April
either.
25th.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
missed both of those. April 25th.
This is-
April 25th.
We have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 25th, 2019. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Oh,
Second.
right, you got it.
Seconded by Mr. Hall. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Maybe you need to do a knock.
There you go.
Take this thing. All right, voucher approval. I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for the first half of May 2019 in the amount of $26,733.98. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Hall. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the vouchers, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Special reports, Planning Committee. Mr. Gross.
Good evening, everybody. Well, it's been a little while, hasn't it? This year, we have had 3 meetings. We missed February due to not having a quorum, if I remember correctly. So from January to current, the Planning Committee has completed the comp plan draft document for the goals and policies. That included input from the community from the October workshop that we had put together. The Parks Department seems closer to being finished with their part of it from what we're being told from Mr. Cooper. And we discussed the urban growth area and the differences when implementing city versus county development regulations. And there was the annual vote for the committee chairperson that I respectfully accepted for my 3rd term. We talked about increasing zoning for multifamily housing, expanding the UGA towards I-5 along with annexing procedures to be able to do that. We also are awaiting the shoreline master plan to come in so that we can review that for part of the comprehensive plan. And we reviewed the economic development element of the comprehensive plan, which included the economic strategies, population growth trends, countywide trends, current economic profile, and one of the key things that came up with of that was the taxable retail sales tax that the city collects upon. And I guess we discussed the possibility of the city looking at raising that even a little bit because they're a lot lower than even some of the neighboring cities. I forget what the numbers were specifically. As we're trying to generate more revenue for the city. The employment section and then the opportunities and quality of life that Vader has to offer. The location to the regional shopping areas, both north and south of us, as well as the resources for the natural, man-made, and historic elements that the city has, and the statewide and city-specific economic development goals and policies. So we've accomplished a lot, but we still don't have the complete plan together. And I'd have to defer to Jill as far as where the completion portion, where you would say we are percentage-wise.
I don't know if I can
As a
answer
whole.
that.
Okay, good, because I can't either.
I'm not sure.
Well, we have the parks are almost done. We have the shoreline still to review. We've got the parks to come in, and then review of that. Is there anything else that we're
still need?
Well, the transportation and utility portion, but that's pretty straightforward. Those will be able to be kind of clumped and reviewed at once, I think is what Gary said. He said those don't take as much as some of the stuff we've already done, so
Okay.
I can't tell you percentage-wise.
Sounds like we're pretty close.
We're getting there. We're making headway.
Great.
We'll have Jill check in with Gary and kind of get a percentage of completion based on those PMD now. But I think we're on an extension, I know, from June is what we're shooting for this time. Yeah. Questions, thoughts, feelings? Fiona, why do you look so confused over there? Was that too much information all at one time?
I've been really fast.
Try not to take up a lot of your time. Did all that make sense? Any questions about anything? Did you want me to back up and go over anything? in
I got to the
particular?
end line, which was enough, we got a lot done, but we're still not finished.
Yeah, but we're a lot closer, and then we progressed and completed a lot of the pieces that are part of it, getting it to 100%.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
All right.
Sheriff's report.
Hello, Kevin Engelbertson with the Lewis County Sheriff's Office. I think May Day went fairly well from a law enforcement standpoint. We didn't have any riots or anything crazy happen, so I would say we had a, proportionate. We had some disputes, we had some things, but nothing too crazy. So for the month of April, I have our totals here, and we had 316 citizen contacts, 5 shifts which were while we were on duty, 10 shifts which while we were not on duty that we responded to. So a total of 15 calls for service, 16 traffic stops, and 3 infractions written from those traffic stops. But things are going pretty smoothly, really, on our side of things. So
Right.
I don't know of any, unless you guys have problem areas that aren't being addressed. Nothing's really. I mean, we're checking warrants, we're checking people we need to check, and nothing really too interesting to report. So.
Great. Any questions?
I've heard a lot of complaints about a black Nissan with very big bass
Yes.
going through, and he is moving. So he should be out of here in the next week and a half.
Yeah, we've had contact with that individual and I've spoken with him, but yeah.
So,
Okay, it's good to know.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, on to city business. Item 1, council to consider discussion options for appointment to the mayor's position. If you've looked at the paper this week, this town crier, you'll see that there was a public posting put in there asking for nominations for the mayor's position, similar to what we do for council positions. So that just got in the paper this week. So, did we want to discuss possible nominations, or are we going to table this until the next meeting when the paper can circulate?
Have you had anybody else? No.
Nobody's come in and said that they would like to do the position.
Well, there is one person who has put their name in as being willing, and that's Lois Wilson. And she has been verified through the county as being eligible to hold the position. She's the only one that we've heard from at the city.
Are we obligated legally to allow X amount of time?
Nope.
No, we're not. We didn't even need to put a notice in the paper, but it's kind of the way we've been doing it, so we continue that tradition. question from the audience?
Can't you guys just take a vote on the one person you have? Or is that allowed?
We could.
I was getting ready to, but
Oh.
I got interrupted.
We could. We don't. But we don't have to. There's no rush. We have 90 days. So, not that I'm looking to.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, so the way that this works, we didn't do it right last time. We eventually got to the right process, but if you read your letter from the city attorney, she explained what needs to happen is that if council wants to take nominations and do a vote tonight, then the mayor pro tem who's running the meeting would ask for nominations. And then the floor would be open to accept nominations. It doesn't need to be in the form of a motion. You just nominate. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate someone else. But in order to be able to vote on the person, we need to verify that they're eligible before you vote. So I guess what I'm saying is if you have more than one person and we haven't figured out if they're eligible yet, you would have to wait on the vote until we decide. But in any event, the point is once the nominations are made, then the mayor pro tem who's running the meeting would have to ask 3 times if there's any more nominations. Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? After 3 times, then he closes the nominations and then you start voting. And he would list the first person who was nominated and we'd see how many votes they got. And as soon as you got a person with 3 votes, that would be the person who's the mayor. Does that make sense? Did I explain that right from what you read too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, it's right here. The 5 easy steps on how to nominate and elect a mayor.
So I guess the first question is, are you wanting to vote on it tonight?
Right. We do have a couple comments from the audience if you're interested in hearing what they're saying at this point. All right. Bob?
To be open, as a city, I think, it came in the paper, and yesterday, I think that you should wait till the next meeting to see if somebody applies besides Lois.
Okay.
My opinion.
Thank you. Scott?
I got my paper in the mail yesterday. I haven't even looked at it yet. I concur with what Bob said. I should probably wait and put the opportunity out there. If somebody comes in tomorrow and says, "Oh, I'd like to put my name." Oh, no, sorry, I already filled it. It doesn't seem very fair to others.
Thanks.
So just to put it out there too, just so yeah, exactly. Just so everybody's aware, this is until November, and then it has to do the whole.
Whoever becomes
This
elected.
appointment is for 7 months until the November elections are final.
And signups are on the 13th, right?
Sign-ups
So,
for
or next
running
week.
for the 2 council positions. Actually, there's 3 council
Three
positions.
council positions.
And the mayorship. Yes, the 13th through the 17th are the sign-up days. So if anybody's wanting to run or knows anybody who wants to run, that's the week of registration.
So maybe I'm getting too technical, but if we nominate a person after that, can they still get on the list? Do they automatically get put on the ballot for November?
No one automatically gets put on. If they're appointed or not, they're not automatically put on.
This appointment is independent of the election.
Yes, but they have to be reelected in November, correct?
Yes.
But if we do it after
That doesn't make
the
any
deadline,
difference.
they can still get on the...
No.
They have to, if they want to be the mayor after November, they have to sign up the 13th through the 17th. Whether they're appointed for this short period or not, doesn't matter.
Okay.
If they want to be the mayor after November, you have to sign up the 13th through the 17th, no matter what.
Got it. Perfect.
Okay.
Judy?
I was just questioning also, on the website, it does not show 3 positions. And I was questioning
It is
that.
because the position that Randy Hall filled is going to be available for a 2-year term to finish out the position 1 term.
I was under the impression that Mike and Leona and Jason's
were all coming due this time.
Nope.
Am I incorrect on that?
It's Mike and Leona's are coming due for their regular
For the
4-year
regular 4
along with
years.
the mayor. And then position 1, because it was appointed, that one is
Right.
also for the 2-year term.
One more. Hallie?
I think that we should all thank Mrs. Wilson, either for being so silly or so brave, to put herself forward to be the mayor, even if she's been chosen, whatever. I thank her for running.
Just the short term, it's all.
Just the short term.
So, back to the council decision. Is the council interested in opening nominations at this time?
I think everybody in Vader, Winlock, Toledo, knows that the mayor gave up his position, and if anybody was interested, they'd come in and said, do you need somebody to fill this position? So I think we don't need to put it on the agenda again, we just need to get it done. So Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
3 times.
Okay.
Lois isn't a newbie, she's been up here, she knows what she's doing. Well,
Where do we?
So do we want to do this tonight or next meeting?
We have 1 vote for tonight.
Mm-hmm. Are we
1
taking?
vote for tonight.
We don't have to. This isn't a motion. We
No,
don't
it's
need
not
a
a
motion to open nominations.
No.
We'll just take a vote of hands here. Who wants to open nominations tonight?
say get her done.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. That's the majority. All right.
So
I'll open the floor to nominations. Anybody can make nominations at this time for the position of mayor.
I will nominate Lois Wilson.
We have 1 nomination for Lois Wilson. Do you have any other nominations?
I nominate Lois Wilson.
Doesn't work
She's
that way.
already
That's one.
nominated, sorry.
Can't. No
What
2
is that,
firsts.
2? Is that 1?
I'm getting that.
Oh,
Are there any other nominations for mayor? Going once,
That's the second.
twice. Are there any more nominations for mayor?
That's the third.
So everyone heard me. I'm closing these nominations at this time. This says if there's only 1 nomination, we don't have to take a vote.
Awesome.
If there is only 1 nomination, the mayor pro tem says, there being only 1 nomination, may I have a motion to appoint Lois Wilson as mayor of the city of Vader to serve until the certification of the next municipal election? So we do need a motion. And I just said it. Do we have a motion for Lois Wilson?
I think we already covered that.
I need
okay.
a motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate
No,
or
to
not
appoint.
to
We're
appoint.
appointing her now.
Okay, Lois Wilson to mayor.
Do we have a motion to appoint Lois Wilson to mayor? Do we have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Ms. Leona Sander Hunter. Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, put up for a vote. All in favor of appointing Lois Wilson as the mayor of Vader and for the rest of Mr. Smith's term, say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Finally made it. You're there. Well, not for long. Go around and sign up down there.
Do you want me to do the oath of office or do you want me to do it?
I can do it.
Okay.
Does anybody have a camera or your smartphone together?
Yes, let me do it.
Okay.
I wasn't.
No, we have to document historical events like this properly.
Is Lois the first female mayor in Vader's had?
No, one, was it one that they did?
And there was one before her.
All right.
I can't remember her name.
You did good, Joe.
think your picture's on the wall there. Sure. What's the handsome lady there?
Put this right here.
She's on council, I'll just put you on.
All right, we're done. All right. My turn to do this for somebody. All right. You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Lois Wilson,
I, Lois Wilson,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
that I solemnly swear I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Washington
and the laws of the state of Washington
and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of the state of what?
United States of America.
Oh, I was going to say once.
And that I will faithfully and impartially perform
And I will faithfully and impartially perform
and discharge the duties of mayor
and discharge the duties of mayor
of the city of Vader, Washington,
of the city of Vader of Washington,
according to law and the best of my ability.
according to law and the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. The last line says, I pass this to you. That's the last line. So it's, there you go.
Signatures we need to get real quick here. So, Lois, can you come over here, please? I mean, Madam Mayor. Okay. So, I need you to sign
Probably two
right here.
A woman, Madam Mayor?
I don't know.
I think
Mayor Smith? Mayor Wilson?
And then you can sign this one too.
For me, John?
Actually, no.
That's it?
That's it. You will sign this paper that comes around because all the council members have to sign it. Okay, afterward. Then.
I think Joe did a good job for 2 weeks.
Yes.
I guess so.
Good resume item.
So we need to have at least 3 of the members of council sign.
Last time
3
I
lines.
said your chair.
Write your name.
And Andy, no, I said your chair. Andy said, yeah. Well, anyway, Andy got so he couldn't hear, so we switched seats so he could get up here. So I sat by Andy most of the time. And I have to make a comment.
It's your prerogative.
Okay. I love Vader, and I would like to see the best for Vader that I could possibly get. And when I was on council before, well, I had just moved here and from Alaska, and there was, I don't know, I walked from my house, which is at the Welcome to Vader sign, walked down and around, and I couldn't really get home hardly before I had to go potty. And so I would go in the crane, but I wouldn't buy anything, and they were looking at me mean. So I thought, I came to the meeting, I was sitting about where the lady in the pink is, and I asked, how come a town 100 and something years old doesn't have a public restroom? And one of the guys that was on the council, after the meeting, he came back and he said to me, if you want a bathroom, you find the money. And his finger was this close to my nose. And I was calm, I didn't say anything back to him or nothing. But he didn't know that I'd been a bookkeeper in logging camps in Alaska for the last, a bunch of years, 3 different logging camps. So somebody big and loud and mean looking didn't really affect me that much. And I thought when I left, I said, buddy, you just bit off more than you want to chew. And I went up to, you have to go to Olympia to get anything. Well, we did in those days. And so I went to Olympia and ended up with the bathroom that we've got now. So if you want to walk down there, well, then the first thing that happened is nobody wanted to clean it. So I was cleaning it too. It really was my bathroom. So anyway, you know that I'm going to fight for Vader, and I really want to do a good job, and I am going to do like I did last time, and I usually came down, picked one day, started out, it was 2 days out of the week. I'd come down and come in here around 9 or 10 o'clock until noon, and anybody could come in, ask me questions. You know, they could throw fits, they could do anything, you know, like whatever they had that they wanted. And I was inundated the first couple months, but it made it so that I got to know people. And some things that look stupid to one person is a really major woo-ha to them. You know, you have to kind of try to see it from their eyes. And I liked it, but anyway, I only want a short period of time. Well, my mother's 97, and most of our relatives die usually around 98. So I tell my mother she's on a banana peel. But she's still up walking and doing everything fine. So anyway, but I really would like to see if we could maybe, my main goal thing, I would like to see get the water back. Then we'd be buying equipment and new stuff, wouldn't we? Could we get it back? Are we even close?
We have a plan, and we've been working the plan, and we are very close.
I'm happy.
Next year is our last audit, or is this year is our last audit?
Yes.
We're going to have to watch the bucks, I bet. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. But you guys will have to help me along. I quit reading my mystery book, and I'm reading Robert's Rule of Order now every night. And it is so confusing and so boring. So I might make some mistakes that are going to have to be corrected. Anyway, but I thank you. I'll work hard.
We believe you.
Okay, you're gonna move
All right.
on.
Okay, and the next thing
Number
is...
2.
Huh? Which one?
Number 2.
Number 2.
City business, number
Okay.
2. That's where we're at.
Council to discuss and consider the park rental fee changes.
So the council asked that I put together some verbiage. Oh, here, you can take. I already have one. Some verbiage, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to get it done before council packets went out. I did have time to work on it today, so that's what you're seeing is what I worked on today. There's a few extra if the public wants to look at those. I have sent it. I worked with our insurance to get some more clarification and to find out what we can and can't do, or what they recommend that we do and don't do. And the people there now are a lot more lenient than the guy that used to be there. He was very strict about stuff. So that's good, I think, and there's a lot more flexible and a lot easier to work around what I think you guys are saying that you want, both the park board and the council. And so anything that's in green is new verbiage. So I can just basically explain. I did make a few clarifications on some of the rules about park rental, so you're going to want to take time to look at that. The majority, I didn't put page numbers, I'm sorry. The majority of it is at the top of the page called park fees. And the way I came up with, and you guys can tell me to change it, this is just my idea, is I put the park rental and reservation fees would be $25. So basically that means if somebody wants to reserve a portion of a park for their special activity or whatever, that they would have to pay $25 to have it reserved for them. If they want to just bring their activity and not reserve it, it's of course free. They don't have to do anything, but only if they want a certain section reserved. And you'll see the last 2 pages show what to me seem like reasonable reservation areas for the 2 parks. But we can present that to you guys at council and also the park board when they have their meeting and see if that looks reasonable to them as well. So we're talking with the insurance company. Basically, they said there's typical use of the park, and then there's what they call additional use of the park, which is if it's a typical use, if it's things like a birthday party or like a group picnic or a family gathering, even a group like a club getting together, whatever, just using the park as it normally would be used. That does not require additional insurance. Or the city can decide it shouldn't need a security deposit or anything like that. It should just be just the basic $25 rental. And they said additional use events is where the city wants to review what activities are happening. And so that he said these are things where you're bringing a different use to the park. Like if you bring a bouncy house, that's an additional use. A park doesn't normally have a bouncy house. If you have carnival or fair type activities, if you have like a large family reunion or a wedding or a car show or any event where there's a fee charged or vendor sales taking place. Those are not additional type of items, and those are the ones where they want us to really review and make a decision if additional insurance would be needed for those. And so the way this is written is basically that the city has the ability to determine what type of event it is based on the information that the applicant provides. And so the city, being the city council and the park board, are the deciders of what type of event and if additional insurance is required or additional security deposit or anything like that. So that's the way I have it written. Again, this is just my take on what I thought I was hearing from the last discussion. So if you guys wouldn't mind reading through that. Like I said, I've sent this off to the city attorney this afternoon to have her check it and make sure that I'm not saying something that shouldn't, that is putting the city at risk or that shouldn't be in there. There's a few changes to the vendor day use, which is on the next page. And then I also highlighted on the last page of the fees under group event weekend use. I've never seen this type of use happen at our parks yet, but I also thought that the $500 fee that was set previously, I don't think that to me, that seemed out of alignment of what council was talking about in the past. So I don't know if you guys want to review that section as well and see. I wasn't quite sure what to do with that, but it just was a flag for me, or like, oh, $500, and I don't know. I just thought you guys might want to look at that. So I guess at this point, I just need you guys to look at it and see what you think. Call me, let me know if you have any questions, if there's things that you want to change, something you want to add or remove, and we can definitely do that. Or if you want to see it totally different, that's fine too. That's what I came up with. So I'm sorry I didn't have it done sooner, but what we got.
Thank you.
So we can put it on the next agenda if you want.
Yeah, we should put it on the next agenda and see if people call in with any information or ideas.
Yeah. Oh, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
The park board, I believe, will be meeting before your next council meeting. Is it okay if I give this to the park board as well for them to review?
They might have some, probably feedback
Cool.
before
Okay.
we ever would. And then The next thing on the council's list here is to discuss a limb pile options. And that's probably going to need some thought on how to do it. My idea, being from the logging camp, you just take a cat and you run it down kind of a hill, and then you bring the big thing in, and then the people just drive up, you put a log across there so that the truck doesn't go down in it, and then you just unload it. How hard can that be? Is that not right?
It's been challenging. I asked that be put on the agenda this time.
Okay.
I was looking at what other cities do. I was going to print some things out for you guys, and I forgot to. What other cities do. And some other cities, what they'll do is once or twice a year they do a collection day. And the idea is that people trim the branches close to the road, so it's in the city easement and they're in the way. So they trim the branches and then they lay them next to the road. The city would rent a chipper that's attached to the back of a truck, and then the city employees drive the town and they chip them on the spot into the back of their pickup, and then they unload the chips for city use or wherever. And so it's announced ahead of time, so everyone knows that it's happening in the springtime or the fall or whenever the city chooses to do it. Tyler Rental rents a chipper for $175 a day. It's a tow-behind style. So for 2 days, we could do this for $350. Of course, we need to look into it a little bit more if we're interested in doing it, how make sure it's legal and not providing a service on public property. Private property, right? Because we can't do that on private property. So anyway, this is something other cities do. It works well for them. They do it every year. So if it's something to pursue, something that we're interested in doing, we can talk to.
You want to look at piles of branches for 6 months at a time?
No. They would put them out. They'd know. Say we want to do this like the last weekend in April or something like this, and we would announce it ahead of time that the collection days are Monday and Tuesday. People would put them next to the road that weekend, and then on Monday and Tuesday the city would come through and pick them all up and chip them.
Twice a year.
Whatever we decide.
I still think we'd be better off having a just deposit area instead of...
That's well, the good thing about this is that we don't need a deposit area. We don't have to worry about maintenance on it. We don't have to worry about...
They all chipped up as they come along the road. How do you get permission, though, to have it that close to the road?
It's our road.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Can't put it on the state highway.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
so it was a suggestion. It's what other cities do. So
Oh no, way in the back's been up for a long time. Judy, you got to put your hand down a minute. You're next.
Just the fact about the storage, I think that really need storage. And if you go the way you're talking, and somebody knocks a big giant bar down, you're going to notice us with a big pile of branches waiting for your day. That's something that you should be concerned about, because everybody's got trees and brush constantly.
that would be a limitation of this, is that we would only be able to collect what we can chip. So anything larger than 5 inches or 6 inches, the homeowner would have to dispose of on their own.
It'd be more of the storage on, if you don't have storage area, once you clean your brush, then you start piling that in front of your house on the street, and it sits there. So, I'm just saying.
Well, the idea is that you wouldn't store it there until the collection time.
If you don't have any other
But you
places
just
to store
don't
it.
cut twice a year when you have trees and bushes, is what he's getting at. What do you do the rest of the year?
Yeah,
Well, the rest of the year, like what I did was when I lived in Vancouver, I cut it and hauled it to the dump.
Yeah, you paid money.
And paid money. Yep. And just because you're not having to pay money to deposit it for a free dump here at the city doesn't mean it's not free. that means everybody else is paying for it. It's coming out of our budget somewhere. So, and last time it was an excavator, and before we got rid of the excavator, we got an estimate of, I think it was $5,000 to clean up the pile, and that's a big chunk of change.
Okay, Judy.
I invited about 100 people last night to meet me down at the F Street Park. That is a very viable solution to this. You don't have to use the whole park, because I know it's designated for a park. But you could use, there's a huge area that would take hardly nothing to use it temporarily as a limb debris, and then we go down once a month or once every 2 months, chip what's there, and sell it back, as Leona and I suggested, to the community to pay for the rental of the chipper. There's a huge space down there. You should really go down and look how big. I mean, it would take nothing. Steve went with me. There was maybe 2 trees that were just saplings that need to be removed, but there's a huge big space there, a lot more than there is down at the sewer plant that we've been using. And I think the only reason it got out of hand at $5,000 was because the county's chipper broke, and we didn't have access to one, and I think and then some people from not even our area used it, so, and possibly we wouldn't want to do it in the wintertime. Just limit it to, 6 or 8 months.
That's the danger, is that if we have a collection site, it's going to turn into, because there was commercial stuff down there. If you look down there, people were dumping dump trucks worth of things. There were stumps.
Exactly.
And there were things that you could not chip. I mean, this was like firewood they were dumping. We can't have that, otherwise we'll end up.
Well, and again, that was a suggestion Leona and I had, was to monitor it, to man it. Volunteers go down there, and man it. And then to avoid going up F Street, which is a private street, there's plenty of room there just to make the circle and come right back up E.
And that might even be the only option, because there's the last house on F Street on the corner does not have an easement through the road, and he may be blocking that off. So F Street will be a dead end. So hopefully.
Next.
I don't know as many details as some of these folks do, but it's a very appealing idea to me that once a year you have the city or some entity come and collect the stuff. Because some of us don't have trucks. We're really we want to clean up our yards, there are a whole bunch of bags of junk. We don't burn. I don't burn in the city limits because I'm not supposed to. So I think that for whatever it's worth, I'm in favor of it. Just get it done once a month or once a year. Excuse me.
Donna.
That park down there is a park, and it's not to be used for anything else. And you get a bunch of people going down East Street past 10th is all gravel. So you're going to wind up tearing that road up. And then the people down there at the end and around are going to have to listen to that chipper. And I don't think they're going to appreciate that too much.
If it's location, I think that the best location is by the water thing. But it also comes down to, is it really something that is that important that we spend this type of money to get done? Because you can always take it up to Lewis County and deliver it. And other people say, I like your idea, because some people say, well, I don't have a truck, how can I take it to Lewis County? Well, if you don't have a truck, how can you take it up to the water plant? Once it's loaded on the truck, it's 20 minutes further.
So are you still considering the place by the water plant, or are we now considering the park? Or this is a need of the community. Enough people have commented that it is a need of the community. I'm not sure what cost you're talking about, just to open up a wide spot and say, here, it's manned by volunteers. The volunteers are gonna be there taking the $5. You need 35 people to dump their stuff to pay for 1 day of a chipper. What costs are we talking about? My husband, sorry, will go brush hog a nice area. Or, make it wide enough or whatever, so what costs are we talking about to the city?
Well, it didn't get done last time, right? And so we ended up with a big cost.
Right.
And I know that the $5,000 bill was because that it was this or it was that. But if it was done halfway through, it would have been $2,500 and then $2,500. So there is the cost there.
There's no monitoring, it wasn't monitored, it was taken care of.
You don't have the stumps, like you said, to deal with, the concrete, and all the barbs
Yeah,
people
work.
put in. Sorry.
In the back there.
Well,
You-
how are you going to prevent people from going it off times? You're going to chain it off, or how would you prevent that from happening? Yeah, I'm looking to the public that are offering any suggestions. How would we do that? Yeah,
You can
Judy?
say, Judy.
No, Judy?
The sewer plant is chained off right now.
If you
The
get
sewer
it up
plant,
at
we're
the,
talking about the park also. So
Well, I'm just saying, they chained that off so we couldn't get into the land debris, so that would be an option, would be to chain it off until the volunteers showed up to do whatever. How's it going to work?
There's a cable across it now, up there on the hill.
It's nailed into a tree.
I don't even.
Yeah, people don't cross it, yeah.
I don't even.
But
Is there a drive into that property?
Kind of, you have to kind of.
Because I went through a ditch.
yeah,
But
you
there
have
is
to-
a cable across, I mean, it's not.
There would have to be, the ditch would have to be a culvert in the ditch and then it covered over because it goes down in the ditch and then back up. So when they did thinning there before, the logging company filled that in, did a culvert and filled it in temporarily so that they could get into that location and do the thinning that they needed, but then they took the culvert out when they left. So it's back to a ditch. So it's not an actual driveway, but it could possibly become.
And there is the trees there that could help pay for stuff. I'm just throwing all this out there. But the trees that could help pay for stuff. But somebody was saying that if we take the money from the trees and combined it with go towards the parks, combined it with some grants, because some grants will do matching. If we got $30,000 or $40,000 from there, then now we've got $80,000 that we can put in towards Warden Park or so on and so forth. So is a really nice park more important than a spot to dump your trees?
and this is right up there
Or-
by the water plant, you're saying?
Right up by the, yeah, it's south of the water plant.
So,
No, it's north.
a bunch of
North.
rain
What's that?
come,
North.
North, sorry.
after the trees come off and it starts raining, is everything slide down into the water tank? Isn't that this kind of a slope from where the water tank is?
It is a slope, but I don't know if it's that much of a slope.
Would it be bad if it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, with no vegetation on it holding it together there.
Yeah.
But,
Well, replanting was also,
yeah,
Yeah.
it'd have to have something. What,
Were you gonna clear cut it or just take enough to make an open spot for the limbs?
The bid that I got was to clear cut it
Clear cut it.
and then replant over half of it, I believe is what it was.
okay, one more time.
Is that not considered in the county?
That is in the county.
Can that burn?
That was a thought, but
Why
I don't
not
know.
make smaller burn piles to burn when you're able to do your burning? And then you have your volunteers who man the burn piles and set those appropriately. And then there's really no expense.
Yeah, I asked.
Maybe
I
offset some
that
of
was the original thought that I had. The burning. If you live out in the county, from what I understand, I haven't verified this, but if you live out in the county, okay, your house. I think you're in the county. If I took my limbs to your house, you're not allowed to burn my limbs.
That's correct.
You can only burn stuff off of your property.
That is correct.
So,
Dumb.
City limbs,
My lips don't have my name.
it's illegal to burn.
it's illegal to take our limbs out to somebody else's house and burn them out there.
But isn't that the city's
I think we're
property?
confused here. We're a city entity.
Okay.
We could do a lot of things.
Oh, Judy. Okay.
What's that?
I
next.
said, I think we might be confused here. As a city entity, there are a lot of things we can do. I don't know that rule would work.
Well, that's
We
not.
If
would
you're
have
a
to
city-
verify it with the
Yeah.
county.
You're a
We'd have
city.
to verify it, but most and all of the burning stuff, even our city ordinances of not city ordinances, the not burning in the city is not the city telling us that. It's the Southwest Clean Air telling us that. And if you burn your garbage in the city, you're not going to get a penalty from the city. You're going to get a penalty from Southwest Clean Air. So that's who says that we can't burn.
Okay, Judy.
I think my confusion is I think we're confusing all of a sudden. We're looking for some place to put the limbs and chip temporarily. Okay? Logging and grants and matching funds, I think, kind of confuses everything.
Well, it's just
I know what you're thinking, but it's just that back over here we're still trying to figure. This has been a year and a half of trying to figure out where to put those limbs so that the community.
well, it hasn't been a year and a half. It was only just a few months back when we found out that that's the railroad property.
We've been searching this out for a year and a half. Would it be simpler? Would it be simpler to pay the $800 lease
It's
and
not
lease the railroad?
It's $800 application fee. The lease is thousands.
Okay.
Long term, I understand what you're saying about logging and getting the barriers up there, but this year, maybe we could just have a wide spot in a section and, say it's open twice. And we just have everybody bring their stuff for a couple of days. We have a wide spot on the park or up at the thing or wherever, and then we rent the chipper for this year. We don't have to move the barriers this year. We don't have to have the logging this year. But for this year, maybe we could just have a wide spot someplace for people to bring, and then we have volunteers.
Why don't we just do the dump truck thing? Like the containers. If we're gonna do that, why don't we just get a container and then we can just let the county haul it away and we don't have to deal with it.
I like Joe's idea because that hardly costs the city anything, and it's clean. Nobody has to pile anything anywhere. I really like that idea. I think it's great.
It's not a full solution to create a giant. It doesn't create a giant storage location for this stuff, which is unfortunate that there's not a storage location for people that want to take their limbs. However, the storage location would get out of hand. I mean, people would just be, if you gate it, they'd be dumping in front of the gate, and it just. I don't want to have a permanent storage location for limbs. It's just what it comes down to. I don't have a problem with finding a solution to let the city to help the residents chip their branches off.
I personally wouldn't look at a pile of limbs waiting for the date to come to get them chipped. I would just haul it away.
And it's still an option for people.
I envision all these piles of limbs, people waiting to get chipped, sitting all over, and went through this whole cleaning the community thing, and now we're looking at piling limbs all over, and it's an ugly picture I've got in my head right now, along with all the snot.
What's
I
been
wonder,
happening- What's been happening anyway?
They're piled on people's property right now.
Well, I've got them piled on my property too.
my suggestion is to pick 3 or 4 people and let them have a meeting. Maybe somebody could bake cookies and get together and really talk it out and check on everything. You know, there's been, 3 different ideas right now. Well, I don't think we're going to settle it tonight. Doesn't sound like. So, what does anybody think of that idea? Nothing. Okay.
I'm wondering from the council of the general field, are we looking for a storage location where people can, dump and leave? Is that what we want, or do we want a day where people bring things and it's manned during the day?
Yeah.
I think
Like this is what it comes down to.
I think that Mrs. Wilson is right. And you're not going to come up with a solution that everybody's going to be happy with all the time. It's just not going to happen. But think it through, and whatever small group can come as their logical conclusion, again, the one everybody in the town will agree with it, and then do it. Just do it. Get it done. Make it happen.
Judy?
I think you've talked about it for 1.5 years, and I think you should make a decision tonight. If you don't want to make a wide open space, great. And if you want to do the thing, but please make a decision. I mean, honestly, this has been discussed. Leona and I've talked to this balloon face.
Maybe we should ask John, does he want to drive around and chip every pile everybody puts out?
And how would they let you
Does he want to go
know?
one place?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No. How would they let you know that you need to go to my house and your house? And would that be like a sign-up list, or how would that all work?
But those are
Well,
the
that
kind
could
of
be worked out.
questions you could ask if you guys had a meeting or something that, trying to figure it out. How many options? There's 3? 3.
Well, once again, I was just wondering, do we want to have you're right, there are several things that have been thrown out there now.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is people want to know what to do with their trims off their trees.
Lewis County Refuge.
Right now, they have to take it up to the county.
And
They
to
don't
do
have
that,
anything.
you have to have your pickup, right, or a big truck. Or
the back of your van, like what I used
or
to
a
do.
container of some sort that somebody hauls up there for you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We also have a community group that has volunteered to help people haul stuff. So there's options for them if they don't have a truck.
Can't they do like a dumpster pickup type of a thing? Like Judy had done for
That's what
the
was
trash stuff?
suggested earlier.
A
Where,
dumpster one,
Just have a dumpster once or twice a year, and yeah, that was,
right,
yeah.
just take the piles.
And the county used to do that free of charge with grant money. They used to get money where they could provide that, but we can also pay to do it. I mean, we saw a dumpster do it a couple of weeks ago, and it was mentioned by one of the council members that that'd be a good use of code enforcement fees or funds that we have set aside for code enforcement, to use some of that money to pay to have a bin come down once or twice a year, and people can just come on that day and bring their stuff. But they're going to have the same problems if they don't have a truck. They're going to need someone to help them. The bin isn't going to be able to drive around to everybody's house, but it would be available and something that they could use and know that it's coming. But I agree that we need to let people know what's going to happen. Because if we're not going to have a solution right away, we should probably let people know so they can get quit waiting and
You
get rid of our
gotta
stuff.
find a solution. You find your temporary spot where people can bring their stuff like they used to do over by the sewer plant, and you make sure there's enough room to bring in a dumpster. And then when you have enough stuff to go into the dumpster, then you have your volunteer people come in, and that dumpster shows up, and then everybody does their pitch to get it all into the dumpster.
Judy, those dumps, the drop off. You had one for yard debris, right?
I did, and
What were the limitations on that?
I could only put flower bed things in it, pull weeds, that kind of thing. I had one person wanted to bring over an entire apple tree. Now, had I have done that, I had to make a judgment call on this. Had I have done that, nobody else would have been able to fill up that dumpster. That would have been totally that one family. And so I said, no limbs. I kept saying, no big limbs, please. And when it came down to push and shove, I only ended up with 4 garbage cans of little things. And then I filled it up with just garbage.
But it wasn't because you couldn't put limbs
Correct.
in it. You chose.
I chose not to do that because I knew it. Like I said, I had one person come, had an entire apple tree, and I knew that was not going to work.
So this was a small...
20 yards. They were small.
Okay, so this wasn't
One of the great big ones.
a container. This
No, it was a container.
It was just a smaller container.
Yeah, I
The
was
ones
only
we've got
the
from the
grant.
county in the past, I think, have been bigger than
There were
those.
40, and
40 yards.
this grant I got was only for 2 20s.
And how much did that cost?
It was $1,000 just for me to rent the 2 of them, and then the county paid for the dumping of, which I do not know what that was. I never saw that bill because that's what the grant was for.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But it was $1,000. I ended up paying for those. So
Well, any more discussion on it, or we got 1, 2, 3, 4 ideas? Yes, I know.
This isn't suitable for general viewing. It's chicken scratch.
It's looking good. Well, are we going to talk about this more, or
Well, if
go
we
home thinking about it and
so Jill, what if
put
we
your
just did a
pieces of
city?
paper together?
If we just did what are the limitations on what the city can do as far as providing a chipping service without it using public funds for?
Providing a chipping service like
Well,
that.
if the city rented a chipper, because I know a couple years ago in September we did it for the day of service. We had a chipper, but I think that was provided to the city, or did we rent that?
I think we rented.
Did we rent that?
Yeah, we rented 2.
How
And then-
much does a chipper
It
cost?
was $175 a day.
No, but if you
Sometime.
bought
Purchase
one.
it.
They're $10,000 units, the big ones. They're big. They're a lot of money. So can the city just rent a chipper and then have people bring limbs, and is that
On this particular day.
yeah?
That's what we've done in the past.
And it doesn't violate any type of odd.
I don't know that I've checked on whether that violates anything. It's
As long as
just
everyone
that,
can use it, it's
think
allowed.
that as far as the risk management portion of it is the concern of having a bunch of people just coming and using it, like if
Right.
you have residents using it. Now, if you have your employee or somebody, specific volunteers who know how to use the equipment and they actually do the chipping, I think that's a lot lower risk than just saying, here, we have a chipper,
So-
anybody wants to bring it, chip it yourself.
Well,
That's not.
what about if the city employee so that would be if the city rented it and then
The city
ran
employee, yeah.
then
Whether
there'd be
it's
the
a
risk management issue.
Whether
But
it's
what
a
if,
volunteer or a city employee, it doesn't matter.
well, the idea was like, what if the city gave the funds to one of the private entity or the nonprofits in town, and the nonprofit went out and rented it and manned it as volunteers,
I don't know.
and then we wouldn't have the liability associated with having a city-sponsored event. We would.
I don't know.
Could we look at that and discuss this the next time then? You need to get the stuff chipped right away, or? Is there big piles around?
Well, people are waiting. We had the service for years where people could just bring and drop it, and we
Yeah.
closed it because it got out of hand.
I get
What-
So we're trying to find a replacement.
What about, if we did that, what about out at the sewer plant on the north side of the road? I know that I picked up a trailer full of chips and dropped them over there a couple years back. What if we set the chipper up on the sewer, in the sewer plant area, on the north side of the road? People brought it in there and we chipped it and we shot it because that's where it's going to store for the city to use. Anyway,
That
what if we-
sounds good.
what if we did it there?
Could we do it on the city property? I mean, is that,
The only thing I would question is what the risk management
Right.
would say. I know that they wanted to come out and see when we were talking about doing it at the railroad. They said, I was just talking about the idea of us having a location like this with a chipper, and they wanted to come out and see it and see what the setup was and what we were doing before they would comment on it. So I don't know what they would say about it. I think, but it being that it's our property, that takes away one issue of risk, and that we're not including the railroad or somebody else's property.
If we were to still charge people the 5 or 10 or whatever is decided, and then that money pays John to come in for overtime, can that be? And then he can come in on a Saturday and run the chipper, and he's covered, so he would just be there and people would drop it off and he'd be loading it up.
I don't know.
Does that make sense?
it does.
And then
Can we-
the extra pay, or the pay for the dumping, would basically go into John's pocket for his overtime.
Yeah.
So, what do we do now? Are we going to go with something, or
Working on it.
I get you?
Go with something.
I know, I was hesitant to even put it on the agenda.
But it's not in the black hole. It's out here on the edge.
I was trying to not have so much to the logistics of the whole thing. By the time you have, and by the
I
time you try to
totally
get
agree.
John
I
in on
wish
his
it
day
was.
off, and now we're trying to collect fees, and now if we collect fees, what does that look like? We have receipt books, and
Well, if we don't
Unless you
collect
do it
fees,
once,
then it's
you'll
just
not
coming
know.
straight out of the
I
budget,
know.
and everybody's griping about the budget. So
that's why my original suggestion was if we just have a day where the city has a chipper, and we either collect or people bring it to us, and it's on a weekday, then it just happens and we do it, and there's no extra.
well, it could be the same thing. And I would leave it up to. I would probably ask John and say, "Hey, do you want 1 or 2 days of overtime this month?" And if he says, "Oh, you know what? I can only do 1 this month, but 2 this month," then we have days marked for people to bring it out. It would more than likely have to be overtime. If he's working, then yeah.
On a regular day of his job,
Can we still have volunteers?
Well,
Yeah.
on this date.
I have a suggestion. Since this is still going nowhere.
Yeah, it
It has
has.
gone nowhere.
It has
for over a
gone
year
nowhere.
now.
Going somewhere.
Maybe we should, for right now, for the issues that we have right now, for the people who have piles right now, maybe we should look into running a dumpster for right now.
See how many people actually take advantage of that and bring their limbs down, put them in the dumpster, and get them out of town.
so I'm still kind of worried about why is it the city's responsibility to take care of everybody's limbs?
Thank you. I was wondering the same thing.
I mean, the county doesn't take care of all the people in there. And others, I want to try to make this work, but if it's going to take money out of the city's bottom line, why?
I know
we've got
I know how
roads
you
to
feel,
do
but
and
it's
things like that.
It's a thing that a lot of people want, and if we can do it right, it'll be a relatively small amount of money, and we can provide the service, and it'll be a nice thing to do. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, this is the last round. Judy, go
Sure
for
meeting.
it.
Last round. This is the part where you make the decision. Mike, if you don't want to do it as far as offering it to the community anymore, then you need to make a decision and all the council needs to vote on it. Put a motion on the table and vote on it. Or if you want to rent the dumpsters, please, somebody,
We need
make a
something.
decision.
Just a minute, I got one
I've got
more.
all night. We can talk and talk.
Yay.
For one thing, the county lets you burn. You can burn on the county. I assume there are regulations and there's periods of time where it's no burnings, and there's always. But you can get rid of it. You can't in the city. You have no choice.
So you
but
have
to use one of these services or pay for it yourself.
However, the county does give you one voucher free a year that you can use
So
for
you
that.
can burn.
No, that you can dump it at the waste for free.
You can take your big
Okay, I did not know that.
Yes.
You take garbage or limbs or
Trade.
whatever.
Garbage or limbs or whatever. One time a year.
And it's quite a big load too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a pretty good sized trailer, and my husband's a big truck, and we completely fill it up, and it's all free.
We can help you get your
Okay,
voucher.
So this is what we can do. We can use the sewer plant facility. There is an open space down there where the limbs used to be on the inside of not the chain, but at the gate. If you go all the way in past there, there's a large area where the limbs used to be, and that's on city property. So we could use that location. That's not a problem. This is all barring risk management that they bought off on it. And we could rent a chipper, $175 a day, $350 for 2 days from Tyler Rental. It's a relatively small amount of money, and we could chip our hearts out down there. So if that's something that we're interested in doing, we could do it one time, see how it worked out. If it was awful and we got more than we could possibly chip, then we would know that we would need to change our
It
plan.
would be good to take a kind of a vote on that one. But just to give us a start, try once.
So
Are
the
we
question
looking
is,
at charging anything?
I know that we want to recoup some costs for this, but
So donations are gladly accepted.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That one works.
I think anytime the city collects money for something like this, I think it turns into, once again, there's all this extra headaches that
Come to
go.
City Hall to donate.
There's lots of
Yeah.
headaches that go along with
That'd be
taking
good.
money, and the city can. I think we can afford $350 for 2 days worth of chipping, plus gas. It's going to take gas to rent the chipper and then to run
runs
the
the date.
And your employees' time.
and the employee's time, right? Which is why I was thinking not on a weekend because he's already here, and I know people are available. Most people have the weekends off, and
That
so
means other things that he won't be able to do during those
right.
2
So we
days.
do lose our employees' productivity.
Cool with that.
But if everybody's working,
But-
how are they gonna be able to bring their stuff during the week?
Can you guys make a...
So, but then it comes down to if we're going to try to do this on a Saturday and have John there on a Saturday,
You could
Does
have
he want-
You could have volunteers do it on Saturday.
and run the chipper that we rent.
I'm sure there'd be tons of volunteers willing to do it too. It just
I mean-
doesn't solve the city problem.
would.
Okay, so we could do that. We could plan this, and then we could have a sign-up day for volunteers. How do we know that they're qualified to run a chipper?
I don't know.
I mean, if someone,
Me?
Says who?
if we do this and someone loses an arm, what happens?
So they cover.
I'm serious. It's as a steward of the city, I'm worried that if we have volunteers running this $10,000 chipper,
I
what
think we
happens when
should
they get
have-
hurt?
Have him run it.
And it's a city event, basically.
He do it, he's qualified.
I'm not nominating him to do
Well,
it.
I mean, he's obviously knows what he's doing.
But if he loses an arm,
Are you qualified?
Okay,
Yeah,
come
what about
on.
your husband?
Let's get some.
we're almost there. We're almost there, I think. Bear with me.
Just do a half day and pay your city employee to do it. Instead of paying a whole day of overtime, just do a half day of
Yeah, just
3 to
try.
5 hours.
Just
Try
try
4
it.
hours.
Try
Try
something.
a 4-hour period. See what you get.
Right.
Pick up the chipper on Friday, take it back on Saturday.
Yeah. It'd be a start.
We could do it. We could try it. This is.
Sometimes if you rent stuff like on a Friday at 1 or 2, they just let you keep it.
Mhm.
So-
They're not open on the weekend, so you can
Yeah.
keep
Yeah,
it
that
for.
would be good.
Sometimes.
So,
Do we want to try this?
Sure.
Yeah?
okay, you
I'm
have to
honestly
make
to
a
the point
motion.
with this now where
I
I'm
know.
gonna say, sorry folks, you're on your own.
Oh,
No,
Okay.
we have just been battling with this for so long and it just
well,
seems
let's
so
just try
Make a
this
motion.
one thing.
Motion.
Just one
Somebody
little
needs to
thing
make a
here.
motion.
Make a
We're
motion.
almost there. I think we have I'll make a motion here. I just want to make
Okay.
sure we've got everything. So should we pick a date right now, or should we just
We can pick a date later.
pick a date
Why
later?
don't we talk to John?
Well, yeah, that's the other question. Is if he
So
doesn't
this
want to work a
week, talk to
Saturday,
John.
Yeah, if he doesn't
Then
want to
it's-
work
then
on
it is
Saturday,
volunteer
then we
only.
need to find a volunteer.
then it's volunteer only.
Yep.
Okay, so that would be
Okay.
the one thing that's up in the air. Okay, I make a motion
Okay.
to put on a chipper day, and we'll do it down at the city plant. We will rent a chipper for $175 a day from Tyler Rental, and hopefully we can get some volunteers to assist with the operation of this.
Sounds good.
There's more to it.
So-
There's a motion.
Huh? And so, is everybody in?
Need a second?
So,
Yeah.
So now we need the second. Do we
Oh,
have a
yeah,
second?
you have a second. Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Now you have to have a discussion.
Ask for discussion.
Okay, discussion, please.
So where in the budget are we gonna take the money out of?
We have a variety of places where we can pull the money from. There are.
Do what? The property? Log the property?
Oh, that's a
That's a big
separate.
job.
That's a separate thing, but
But still,
yeah.
nothing come and cover some of this.
We've got money. I mean, just off the top of my head, all of those line items that we did for the tractor tires, we had $3,500 for that. We only spent a little over $2,000. So I know for a fact, just on those line items alone, we have $1,500 that we can use. And some of that isn't necessarily available for this because it was from street budget and stuff. Although,
No,
Anyway,
This isn't street.
this isn't street, but the code enforcement and some other things. So there's money. $350 is not hard.
You're only doing one
Fine.
day, you said.
Yeah.
Pick up Friday and take back Saturday,
Yeah.
so that's only $175.
Okay,
So it's not. It's the money's not a problem. So
now, can we take a vote,
Now we can take a vote.
please?
All
All in favor? 1, 2,
Aye.
3.
Aye.
It's anonymous.
all right.
So now you say motion carries.
Motion carried.
Okay. Well,
And
some
we're
logistic
adjourned.
public comment.
Oh, there's public comment if you want to
Yes.
do that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
May I add my name to the end, to the second one?
I'm supposed to say public comment,
Yes. so
right
now you-
down here at the bottom.
You asked me, is there anyone on the list for public comment?
Oh, is anybody on the list for
You
public
have-
comment?
Yes, there is.
Oh my
Mayor.
God.
The first person on the list is Cindy Radcliffe.
I'll pass.
Okay.
She's going to pass. The second person on the list is Judy Costello.
I'm not going to pass. Judy Costello, 709 A Street, Vader. I would like to report that the cleanup went really, really well.
Oh,
There were about 13 families came, did all of their garbage. I think it was well received. I really appreciate the county helping out on that. The second thing is May Day went really well. I think our committee ended up with approximately $1,500 that we earned with our silent auction, the beer garden, the cake walk, vendors, all of that for our next year's starting out. So that was really good. And the third thing is kind of informational. If you've ever closed out an account, left a deposit somewhere, or moved and just forgot it, if you go on the state that you used to live in, I typed in Oregon unclaimed funds, and they are doing another big push right now to identify people, and I had $95.
Wow.
So you just go to the state that you used to live in, or currently I had nothing in Washington, obviously, but I just thought that might be informational.
That's
And they
good.
update it once every 30 days.
I have $112 in California.
There you go.
I can't get my hands on. I can't prove. Because all the way back when I was living with my son.
We have to try it.
Okay,
Out of order.
We're done.
No, we're not.
Elected officials' comments.
Elected official comments.
What is that?
Just ask for it.
Huh?
Just ask for it.
Elected officials' comments.
No.
None.
Okay, adjournment.
Now you can.
Tell us what time you're adjourning.
I am adjourning at 7:35, 6, 7.
7. Bang.